Hello, everybody. This is Case Study QB, and we are in the Progressive War Room. And I am here with Juan Paredes, who is running in Florida. And I have Brook Hines, who is a progressive consultant. And I have Sass, who is also a candidate running in Texas. What's going on, everybody? Thank you so much, Brook, for coming and doing this. I love your progressive spirit, and I love the fact that you come on and you're giving your time and you're generous with your time to give advice to up and coming candidates. So, with that said, we're gonna go right into it. All right. So I have my man Juan, who has 3 questions that he's gonna start us off with. As he's talking, I'm gonna throw up websites and profiles so people can see how to contact and how to get in contact with Brook and Juan, and hopefully you can also donate to Juan and Sass, who's running right now.
Yes,
is there anything
awesome.
anybody want to say before we officially get started? Juan, you have anything you want to say?
I just really appreciate the work that you do to put these together, and also with the People's Gauntlet. You know, it's really helpful, and I really appreciate it. It's helped me a lot. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for reminding me. Yeah, the People's Gauntlet. So Sass and Juan has gone through the People's Gauntlet. Sass, as of today, is officially a People's Contender, which means he has finished and made public all 5 gauntlets. And Juan is already a People's Contender, and I've already started interviewing some more candidates to get their gauntlets out there. But I can't wait until I have the website ready so that candidates can sign up themselves and then put their own videos up, so that I don't have to do the Zooms anymore. So that's coming soon. So let's get right into it. Oh yeah. So Brook, you have anything you want to say to the audience?
Well, welcome, and
Yeah.
I'm so glad that you're with us. You're joining us to learn about how to run and work out some of these finer details of putting your team together and getting things off the ground.
Awesome. Sass.
Yeah. So first off, let me just check these the mic level. Does that sound good, Case?
You sound good, buddy.
Sweet. I do have a cold right now. That's why I sound so messed up. That's all right. I'm here for you all. And just a big thank you, of course, people watching, Brooke, for coming. It's finally great to meet you, Juan. And then Case, I'm so excited for the work you're doing. Cases and I have talked a lot about plans for what he wants to do with People's Gauntlet. I think it's going to be really, really cool. But yeah, that's it.
Thanks. Awesome. Thank you so much. All right. So with that said, Brook and Juan, go ahead with your first 3 questions.
Yeah, for sure. So my first question is, because I know a lot when it comes to progressive candidates, a lot of them are going to be mainly battling on the field a lot more than they would traditionally. Because I like my the last 2 candidates in my previous who were previously elected, the one who was currently incumbent and the one who was previously incumbent, over 90 or 85% and 90% of their money went directly to media and the standard TV media, stuff like that. And it's just the standard way of winning elections for those type of candidates. But of course, progressive candidates are not going to be courting those same level of corporate donations. So they're going to be doing a lot more field operations. And I just want to know what is expected out of a field director when they're looking to hire one. That way they know exactly what to look for.
I like working with field directors that know field directing, and that's not too hard, because people who like doing field generally really like it and are really into it. And you're 100% right on. To me, I think it's actually a weakness of these corporate campaigns that they spend so much money. They rely on television advertising, and it's a strength, and it's our secret weapon to knock doors, be it every meeting in your community, know people and know the issues that are happening. And I've seen in Florida politics now since I moved back. I'm a native, but I moved away for 20 some years and came back. And I'm noticing that we have a kind of broken system in Florida here politically, and these corporate candidates, their campaigns are being run by consultants who are also taking commissions on those on placing that media. So I mean, that's the nature of that beast. And we can beat that. We can absolutely beat that by knocking doors and getting out there and just relating to people. There was a lot of big money in that campaign the last time around, and you got to believe that it's going to be very similar this time. It's a D+6 district. And we were talking about redistricting earlier. Your district might get rearranged because they're going to add the Florida's 28th down there. So some piece might get taken away or added or whatever. But you want a field director, to circle back around. You want a field director, first of all, somebody you vibe with, because you're going to deal with that's your right-hand person, 100%. You're going to talk to them like all the time. They're going to be on every call. You want somebody who not only knows the community, and when I say knows the community, they don't have to grow up there, but understand the dynamics in the community. You want somebody who understands field and knocking doors and bringing those volunteers out and getting them organized and getting them to the doors. So you can actually hire somebody from out of state. I've seen field direction done remotely by somebody in another state, actually, bringing people together through telephone meetings and then sending them out. I prefer to have somebody on the ground who's doing that, but it can be done. And I would definitely prioritize someone who knows and has done a few campaigns over someone who is. This is what I see a lot. I see a lot of someone's husband or someone's wife becoming the field manager, and there's really more. That's what I'm looking for. There's and there's a knowledge base that you need. Like you need that. It's good to have familiarity and it's good to trust your team. And I'm sure we'll get to that in a second, but for field, definitely just knowing field, I think is the deal. And when you go to hire field, a lot of people go to political science departments at your local colleges, community colleges. I will also stake out, be it every monthly DEC, Democratic Executive Committee meeting, and get a feel for who's who. And if you find somebody you're vibing with there, that really kind of gets what you're doing, and you get what they're doing, ask them to work with you. That is a really good way to find good staff, is just to go to those DEC meetings, because that's where all the people looking for work are at. I'll guarantee you. Yeah, you watch at a DEC meeting, the people who stand on the side walls who aren't sitting down in the thing, people who are like kind of watching everything happen, they're the consultants. They're the people looking for work almost always.
All right, cool. Thank you. Actually, that's actually a really good thing to know. I actually was gonna continue with the follow-up of like, where would you find the field director? So it's actually perfect that you answered that bit at the end there, because that's also one of the challenges, is finding the right person, because like you said, you want somebody who is who ideally is local, because they need to know the local dynamics. Like, of course, you said you could find somebody who was local and then maybe moved and still has an idea and could probably do some things remotely. I'm sure that's possible, but ideally, like you said, you want somebody local. So that was gonna be my next question. You answered that like perfectly, so thank you. And so you want me to go right into my next question, right?
Can I jump in
Yeah.
real quick?
Yeah. So
let me jump in real quick.
oh yeah, go
'Cause,
ahead. Yeah,
so
go
you
ahead.
said you gave some great examples. 'Cause I didn't even think about that. College, you know, the poli sci department and seeing if somebody's there. That's a really good point. So I'm curious, Juan or Sass, like right off the bat, do you have any colleges or anybody nearby that you can think of? Oh, maybe I'll go check out that college. I'll go with Juan first.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, my the college in my district is actually FIU, so it's
Okay.
so that's actually
Nice.
really
Cool,
good
cool.
for
And
me at least.
Sass, do you have any colleges nearby?
There are a bunch, but the main one is University of Texas at Austin. But again, that depends on what we're going to get to in a minute, which is where is my district?
Yeah, we're definitely gonna
Yeah.
ask that question. So, all right, Juan, take it to your second question. But
Yeah, so my second question would be also what exactly should I look for in a campaign manager as well? Because I feel like a lot of stuff a campaign manager would do, unless I'm mistaken of their role, would be a lot of things that I would want to control to begin with. So I'm not sure exactly how to reconcile those two things, like where exactly they fit in between me, the field director, and my vision generally.
Well, it's always dependent on the kind of relationship that you want to have. And so what you just said, I think, is very useful. For myself, what I look for in what I want to see in campaign managers is I want to see someone who is way more detail oriented than I am. I want to see somebody who is going to get me to my meetings on time, and somebody who is looking for opportunities. I think we talked about endorsements last time, and that's the kind of thing that a campaign manager needs to be out there, kind of. At least in a smaller campaign, a campaign manager is going to do some of your political direction, which is what endorsements and stuff are. And this person needs to kind of be a go-getter. You know, they need to keep you on the straight and narrow. They need to be very detail oriented, and and they need to be looking for these opportunities. So what I find in campaign management is that the people who are fabulous campaign managers are type A people, and I because I'm an art person, like I know a lot of type B people, you know. So I've managed campaigns a lot, but when I manage a campaign, I always make sure that I've got a deputy or a political director who is kind of filling in these gaps, you know, with the like one of my big gaps, what I don't like to do is the kind of political direction where you're doing outreach. I don't love doing outreach. So I always look for someone who's a major extrovert and loves doing that kind of work to be like my right-hand person. I think there is I think that there are upsides and downsides to having family in a campaign management kind of role. You want a campaign manager who's going to tell you the truth. You want a campaign manager who knows politics and knows how to win a race. And you might not find that within your family unless you come from a political family. And then God bless you. we're all crazy then. But if you don't know, and I'm going to think of this in terms of our calendar right now. If you don't know yet who your campaign manager is, don't worry, because with redistricting, don't really need that person on the ground and hitting it just yet. Like I would aim for March, April with the way things are going in Florida with the redistricting. And that's going to apply to Austin and Texas too. That your redistricting is going to bump a lot of other districts around. So even if so for instance, in Florida, the 28th is going to get added, and they're going to be taking territory out of different districts in order to make that district. So it could conceivably impact the 26th. So if it's the 28th, it could impact the 27th, the 26th, the 25th, 24th, et cetera. A few years ago, they added District 9 in Central Florida, where I live, and it impacted 5 or 7 districts because we're all in this big circle in Central Florida. So that's a big unknown for anybody, and especially young people who are progressives, kind of doing this for the first time in a redistricting year. Really cool, because you can make some moves as a progressive in a redistricting year. Totally, you can fly under the radar. People are looking in other directions, and let me tell you, the action really doesn't start until April, May. You want that campaign, by the way, you want that campaign manager to be developing your calendar, getting you involved with stuff, and then really, really hitting it, hitting the doors, and getting people out there May, June. It's just the nature of campaigning in Florida, which is a problem because starting about June, it rains every day here. So whatever you can do in April and May in terms of introducing yourself to some neighborhoods and, some important like clubs and caucuses, get it done, because then things get really rough in Florida. And I bet it's the same in Austin, weather-wise. It's just hot and rainy and dangerous, actually.
All right, cool. And so that actually, the last thing you said actually really makes me think about another question, just as a quick follow-up. So would you say that for the most part, you should focus on building the infrastructure of your campaign before April, May, and then not really focus too much on outreach because, like you said, you want to ideally do it closer to the election. So should you just focus purely on like infrastructure building and just leave the outreach for later, or should you kind of do both?
Well, outreach in terms of political outreach is definitely your infrastructure, but outreach in terms of knocking doors,
right?
That's like if I were to make this like a pyramid, I would say that the bottom, the foundation of your pyramid is your internal administrative work that you do to keep everyone together. And then like one of the very next levels is that outreach to unions, outreach to clubs and caucuses, community organizations, all of that stuff. So that that kind of political outreach is definitely part of your infrastructure. And if you get that done, you start getting that done in the beginning of the year, and where where the endorsements are that can be picked up, and who's who, then you're not scrambling come May and June, and you can really focus on field.
All right, cool. Yeah. So basically, essentially just prepare, get everything lined up, and just like aim everything in the right direction, and then just shoot as soon as like you need to, basically.
That's right. It's like you're loading a boat for a voyage, and you want to get everything in there in the right order so that it's usable and that you can find it. So much of the work that I've done in campaign management has been administrative. And that campaign manager, by the way, is who needs to introduce you to other key people. They need to be somebody who is, it's really good to have someone in the campaign manager position who is discreet and diplomatic and all of that, because they're the people who other people are looking at. So let's say, people like this are all over the place in in the politics that we do, because we're passionate. So I know a lot of passionate people in progressive politics who are professionals, and they you want that passion in the field, and you want calm administrative people who get things done, managing stuff, because they're the people who keeping you grounded.
Right. All right. That sounds good. Okay. I guess I that does make a lot more sense, at least for me personally, because what you're saying, it seems like a campaign manager is actually very dynamic. It really depends a lot on the candidates who's hiring them.
Yeah.
Because for me, I had the idea that a campaign manager would also be involved in like messaging and policy building, stuff like that,
Yeah.
where I would, for the most part, like I wouldn't mind input, of course, but for the most part, I would like to control those aspects myself. I would want to be the person who builds my policy and builds my messaging, of course, with proper input from professionals, but generally I want primary control over those things, and I don't want somebody who expects to be controlling those things. But from what you make it sound like, that's very dynamic. Like you can find the right person to fill in the gaps of your particular campaign of who you are as a candidate. So that makes a lot more sense.
Yes. Yeah. And we haven't even touched on messaging yet, but but it is top of mind for progressive candidates getting out there, because that's your competitive edge. Your competitive advantage is you're bringing a different message to the table that you're not going to hear from these corporate candidates.
Right. Perfect. All right. Thank you. I did have one more last question, was mostly, this one might be a little faster, is, so I also work full time as currently right now. So of course I'm trying to get to a point where I can fully focus on the campaign. But I feel like it'd be a lot faster to get to that point if there were more avenues of fundraising. Like currently fundraising right now is me doing call time, which is very active and hard to do at the same time while working full time. But if I can have other avenues of fundraising while I do call time simultaneously, it would be a lot faster for me to focus on my campaign directly and not have to continue working on my full-time job. So I was wondering if you had any ideas for like other avenues of fundraising besides call time that I can look into.
So everybody asks that question, and it is a very good question. There are consultants who do fundraising consulting. As a matter of fact, no friend of Progressive's, but Scott Dworkin on Twitter, who goes by @Funder. That's his whole thing. Is that he's a fundraising consultant. But what he would tell you, and what those big dogs would tell you, is you're using their lists. So they're introducing you to people and making it so it's not a cold call, So these fundraising consultants can actually be very helpful, and they will also drive you crazy, because they will say, change your message for this funder and blah 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 blah, like that kind of thing. So there's some real like upsides and downsides to working with the fundraising consultants, but they do exist. And one of the nice things about working with a fundraising consultant is I know a lot of them work on percentage. So it's not something that you have to lay down a big retainer for, like they're generally, a fundraising consultant isn't going to say, I need $2,500 to start, it's not, it's their model is that they can make money as they're making money for your campaign. Or at least that's the way it should work. Now with smaller, ignore Scott Dworkin, just generally, he's kind of awful. There are a lot of small consultants who do fundraising, and what they will do, like just the baseline stuff is, here's Emily's list, like for women, here's like all of these like structures within the Democratic Party, and they kind of take you around to those structures to try and find donors within those structures that will help you. I think a better approach is to find a consultant who is, instead of like going through that structural route, is someone who has developed a list of prior donors in your area, and you can actually make that list. You can go on the FEC website and look at the people who contributed and how they've contributed, and you can kind of suss out like who the progressives are and who the corporate Dems are. And not always just by sorting the list by the highest number to the lowest number. There's a lot of progressives who give the maximum amount to campaigns, so you don't have to necessarily just look at small dollar people. Because the big dollar people are out there, and let me throw this out there too. There are also people who operate political action committees that can help your campaign that are kind of to the side. So, and the way that would work is, I had this come up in Lake Wales recently. A group of people very opposed to a piece of development. So there were some donors who had some money who were developers, and they were trying to preserve a historic building. And it was actually kind of the first real good development that I've seen in a long time in Florida, was something they were working on down there. And they put together a little PAC that helped the progressive candidates do their messaging. And what that looks like, and just to demystify it, is they'll put together a PAC, throw $5,000 in it or $12,000 in it, and do direct mail campaigns out of that. In Florida, direct mail is how you win races, because we're spread out. We have a lot of suburbs and sprawl. So knocking doors doesn't necessarily cover it all, and you really have to fill in with the direct mail.
All right. Well,
So
that actually helps a lot, because if I can get somebody to do a lot of the priming before the calls, it can actually save me a lot of time, because a lot of the time in the call time is just sitting there waiting until you actually get an answer, and then once you do, it's not always 100% they're gonna donate. They're not obligated to it. I don't expect people to be obligated to donate. So having somebody who can go through that process and filter out and then prime them, it would actually save me a lot of time as well. So it's actually really helpful. I honestly wouldn't necessarily look to get too much money from PACs generally, only because I'm not saying I wouldn't take any money from any PAC, but generally PACs are aggregated money that is essentially undisclosed. You don't know who put the money in the PAC. It's just there, and then they give it to you. I would for some PACs I wouldn't mind taking money from would be, for example, union PACs, where they vote on who to support. That's one thing I wouldn't mind taking money from. But generally, because PACs are so non-transparent, I ideologically wouldn't look too much into getting money from most PACs generally. But there are instances where if there's sufficient enough transparency, then I wouldn't mind quoting that.
And the reason I bring it up is that there are some good, and these aren't like super PACs, like super dark money, but what I find are good single issues. Like every once in a while I run across these really good single issue people that are like, I want to spend some money in this race, and I want to spend it on this issue, and then that's how they form. Like otherwise, there's not much reason to go chasing existing existing PAC money that's already out there. But and we could do a whole segment on that. It's just how people put those PACs together to work on issues, fine tuning, working on issues.
I'm going to jump in here.
Thank you. I really appreciate you answering all my questions.
Yeah, definitely.
My pleasure. Good questions.
I want to jump in here real quick because when you mentioned PAC, that's the first thing I was thinking of, and Juan definitely touched into it, because definitely one thing that our wing of the party or of the spectrum, which is progressivism and not me, us, Bernie Sanders type of ideologies, like as soon as you hear PAC, the stigma is like, you're a grifter or you're
that's right,
corrupt or whatever it is if you're taking money from a PAC, super PAC, what you call it, single issue PAC. I'm sure they don't specify. All you hear is PAC, and that's it. So can you dive in a little bit into? And maybe there's people out there that still might disagree and just say, hey, you shouldn't take any money from a PAC, just small donor under $200 or whatever. Like, what's your opinion on that, Brooke?
So I was absolutely that person years ago before I really jumped into doing this work. And I realized that there is a whole spectrum of different kinds of PACs, and and the ones that I've felt comfortable with are like the PACs that are associated with the progressive infrastructure. So like the SEIU PAC, I'm not sure if Riverkeeper has a PAC, but that's the kind of nature, something that I would look at. And all it is that this is a group of people that came together and started a fund to give money to candidates. The Progressive Caucus of Florida, Democratic Caucus, Progressive Caucus of Florida, DPCF has a PAC, and what they do is they look at every single race in the state, and however much money they have in the PAC, they try to divvy it up between the races that they like and they think that are winnable, and they go through this whole voting process to decide who gets that money. And it's nice. So it ends up being like $500 here and $700 there, and it works out well. PACs are super individual, like I agree. Most of them are dirty money at the very end, and what you're going to see is these are the people that you progressives generally don't have access to, and the money that they're spending is in media, it's in television ads, it's in stuff much bigger than the kind of work that we do. Not bigger, but like generates more commissions for them essentially.
Yeah.
But it's so multifaceted.
Okay. So basically, all PACs are not created equal, is basically what you're saying.
Yeah.
And if I would wonder, is there any keys that you could a candidate should look for to really find out if a PAC is a nefarious PAC or a PAC that they can truly take money from? Go ahead.
Yep. That's what you want your or your political director, more likely a political director would have the information on that. And the work of running for office and being a candidate, especially a progressive candidate, is all about networking. It's all about getting out there, finding out who does what and who's good at what. And that's just a piece of that whole puzzle, is finding the right people who can do that outreach and hook you up with the right kinds of people. So like, for instance, if I'm not mistaken, if you go down the list of professional progressive organizations in Florida, like Dream Defenders and Faith in Florida and Florida Immigrant Coalition, Florida Rising, they all run PACs, and they all run. I can speak for Florida Rising because I worked with them before they merged. They might run multiple PACs depending on the district. So what they might do as progressives, what they might do is they might say, well, we have a candidate in downtown Orlando, and there's a really bad proposal on the board to knock down a historic hotel, and they'll put some money, they'll get donors, they'll put money in that PAC, and that's all about one candidate generally who is in opposition to whatever this move is, and they're going to use that money to leverage on that policy and to bring the candidate in with that policy. So in other words, what they did was they found a donor who was saying, you know, I grew up in this neighborhood. I love this architecture. I think that it adds to what this neighborhood is about for me, and I don't want to see it torn down. Like that's a real one actually that I worked on and did mail for. What I would do, and actually, Juan, what I would do with you specifically is there's a couple of consultants in Florida, but I can think of one who is in Georgia that I think is somebody that you need to have a conversation with, because he might be able to give you some names of, you know, these people that you're kind of looking for. Most of my Florida contacts are Central Florida, and fundraising people that I know in Central Florida, I just don't like their style. I think that it's not as I can give you their names, but I don't know if that would be as successful for your type of campaign. You know, which is something we have to take into account, is that we're not really playing the Emily's List game. We're really not playing the you know, go to every Democratic county chairs meeting kind of thing. We're doing something different.
That's more like the establishment,
right? Exactly.
Lane, right? The establishment does that type of stuff more, right? Okay,
right.
All right.
Right.
So as we come down to, it's 9:00. Can we go to 9:10? Does anybody have a hard out? I'm just curious.
No,
everyone's good?
I'm good.
Okay. All right. So let me show. I have a couple questions that I'm gonna just throw out there, and we're gonna do maybe like a rapid fire type of thing with Brook. So the questions are gonna be: should you try to reach every single person in your district? Which I know, obviously, the question is no, but I'm curious to ask Brook, like, what percentage of how far should you try to reach to get people? And then what if your district is not drawn yet? When should you drop out? Mm-hmm. How to hire staff, how to fire staff, or when to fire staff is a good one. And then how to attract volunteers. So let's start with the first one. How many people, Brook, of your how many constituents should you try to reach out to, as far as, let's say, and I'm throwing out numbers, let's say you live in a district where there's 300,000 constituents, and there's like 50,000 that's actually registered, so like they can actually vote. Like, how would you proceed in that type of scenario, Brook?
Well, you want either your field director or your campaign manager or yourself, or you guys sitting down as a team looking at the data. Like, this should come from the data. So you're looking for sets of people, demographics. You want to know, even if you're not going to go after these voters, you want to know who your super voters are, people who vote in everything, even down to municipals. You want to know who the people are in that district who have voted in the primaries in this district every single time. These are the people who are guaranteed to vote, and you got to make a pass at them. Looking at that's the Republican. Okay, so this is District 10, which is Central Florida. Val Deming's seat. She had a primary with two other people. There was a total of 30, 60, 40, 60. There was a total of about 500,000 people that voted. No, 400,000 people who voted. And the population, wow, the population of that district is 741. So they had close to 50% participation. But the way you find those people is you go into the van, the whatever database you're using, whatever, if it's the van or if it's L2, whatever data you're using, find your super voters, find the voters who align with you. So like, what's a good way to do this? Let's say you've got a piece in your platform that is really focused on Social Security. That's a good one. You want to make sure that you're talking to every senior in the super voters, and then what I do, and of course we're talking about Democrats first. For progressives, we need to go into the no party affiliation information, and we need to look at who in the NPAs, and I don't know what they call it in Texas, but independent voters, and you want to pick out the independent voters who are voting to the left, that are voting blue or whatever, and select your demographics out of there. So you're choosing your voters, essentially. You're looking at the data and you're saying, I absolutely, for instance, have to have people of color 65 and over, and absolutely have to have the college students through young professionals that are women. For instance, let's say if there's like a reproductive health issue that is on the board, then you want to hit young women and young women who vote to the left, and you just start choosing. You start choosing all of your voters that way, and you can whittle it down in a lot of different ways that generally follow your messaging. Going back to what Juan was saying about wanting to keep control of that messaging. One of the ways you keep control of it is by reinforcing it with bringing in these data sets of people that you're reaching out to. So to give you a hard example, our win number, we were doing a congressional campaign a couple of years ago, and our win number was like 44,000. We needed 44,000 votes. It couldn't have been that small. It was something. Anyway, we needed 44,000 votes, and we went. And then you go into the data and you look for how you can put those 44,000 people together. Is it going to be how many seniors, how many people of working age in early career? You want to think of it in terms of like early career, mid-career, and then seniors, because they kind of think of things, they approach things differently. And what am I leaving out? It's totally driven by data. And your campaign manager or your field person should develop something called a landscape memo, where they go into the data and they say, here's your win number. This is the amount of people that you need in order to win this race, and this is how we're going to find them. And they should tell you in their landscape memo that they want super voters of certain demographics. They want a certain percent of each of these super voter categories, and they want a certain percentage of these no party affiliation voters from the left. And I would absolutely look for, and if you're doing it yourself, then that's fine too. But always look for getting those NPAs into your plan. I think a mistake that people make often is they only go after super voters. This is a campaign season that could be really hard, and it could be really different for the left. We don't know which way this is going to go. There's a lot of hot issues. There's a lot of wedge issues. There's a lot of ways to pick up voters for a progressive. This is going to be a bad election season for establishment Democrats. And I think the establishment Democrats know that across the board. So I see some opportunity for progressives in 2022.
Yeah, I agree with you by the fact that there's so many moderates that are for the Build Back Better plan, that $3.5 trillion infrastructure bill. And, there were very few, there's one in New Jersey, I forgot his last name starts with a G, but there were very few extreme corporatist Dems that were against it. But for the most part, there were a lot of even moderates that were like, yeah, we need to pass and show the American people that we're doing something substantial in their life. We need to pass that 3.5 trillion. So I agree with you, Brook. So we're coming down to the wire. So we're going to do this last question, but I have a lot of good questions for next time. I hope Brook will join us again. Hopefully maybe we could do this right in a month or two and have Sass and Juan and everybody back on. The next time we're going to ask these questions. When should you drop out? How to hire staff? When to fire staff? And how to attract volunteers. But the last question I want to ask Brook is, what if your district is not drawn yet? What if you don't know who your constituents? And matter of fact, Sass is in that category right now. So go ahead, Brook.
So focus on that foundational stuff. Focus on the political direction where you're reaching out to allies, and you're building your team, and you're building your administrative infrastructure from within. Get all of that dialed in. Get your Google Drive going. Do your photography. Do your branding. Do all of that stuff, and just have it ready to go, because they're going to announce the districts, and that's when you can do your landscape memo. That's when you can do your demographics, go through the data, comb through it. But you'll be ready, because you'll just have all of your stuff. I love your branding, Sass. That's awesome. Thank you. That's really cool. Love it. Yeah. So this is, and it's kind of manna from heaven. Like it's really nice in a way on these redistricting years to have a little bit more, I look at it as a luxury. You've got more time to actually do this foundational stuff. And as soon as that's announced, then you know how to do your field. But you can do it. Field's the only thing you're not doing, on redistricting. So you can find out where all your endorsements are, find out where your donors are, solidify your social media presence, start up your email donation campaigns, where you're doing asks through your email list, and look for ways to get in the media, look for ways to do your PR, get all of that stuff dialed in before March, April. and you'll hit the ground running.
I have a quick question,
actually
Brooke.
love these redistricting years.
I have a quick question. Yeah, so you said to find your donors and find certain things that I would have thought that, you have to know your cutout district, but you're saying that's not necessarily. Maybe if he's in Texas right now, just look for people in Texas, or just look for people all over the nation.
Yeah, well, and definitely all over the state, because donors exist
Mm-hmm.
all over the state. So a South Florida donor is going to be interested in politics. South Florida progressive donor is going to be looking at politics, congressional districts. It's not necessarily, especially for people who donate, they're not really necessarily looking to donate in their own district. As a matter of fact, I would be surprised if I have donated too much money to people who've run in my district. That's a funny thing. Like I'm always looking for these like standout progressives, and they're almost never where I live, except for Grayson.
I agree.
So yeah, figure that out, but before it's all dialed in. Sass?
Yeah. So when I've gone through my list of Texas donors, and I come across people who have moved out of state, I say their turnover rate is higher for actually getting a donation out of them. Of course, part of that means that like they probably have more money. That's why they were able to move. But like, I think that's like the mechanical reason why. But yeah, for sure, for federal races, I mean, I do my best. And when people are like, I've had people be like, call me back when you have a district. I'm like, all right, that's fair. But but for sure, for federal races, you can definitely look far and wide.
Yeah, and you're making those relationships, and so they know who you are, and they're ready for when the district hits. There's no more work for you to do except to make the ask. It's like, all right, when are you going to send the check?
Okay. Yeah, and also, there might be people who push back if they're not necessarily in your state or district. But remember, you can always say that federal candidates, their decisions and their policies affect the entire country. It's not the federal candidates aren't they are representing the district, but they impact the entire country. So it's within their interest to help you if they agree with your policies.
Well,
yeah, and interest groups. Oh, go ahead, Sass.
And for that reason, I am representing everybody in the country. There's a like a priority, right? It's my district first, but it's like district, then Texas, then like the whole country, then like the whole world, because it's U.S. Congress and the decisions we make affect the whole planet. So like when I say I'm representing everybody, I mean it.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. And the very best members of Congress are people who have that attitude. And I think that, when you think of your rank and file progressive voter, I think we're kind of tuned into that more than your, kind of dyed in the wool yellow dog Democrat, like they're just going to vote for whoever is the Democrat. But we're going to vote for people, and we're going to look for people who are responsive to issues and responsive to that kind of policy that is that is global in nature, because our problems are global in nature, with environment and climate especially. And I'm sure in Austin, you have some very interesting economic kind of pressures right now too, with development and people coming in, how cost of housing and all that sort of thing. I'm jealous though. I love Austin, or at least I did. I don't know if it's like every other place I've lived, had this like really great time, and then things just went out of control. So like Nashville is not as much fun as it used to be. Hopefully Austin is still, cool and weird. But and it's always going to have good food, but
Nice. All right.
Yeah, Austin.
Go ahead, Sass.
Austin, I'd still say Austin's cool and weird. It's less weird than it used to be, unfortunately, COVID has run its toll on a lot of local businesses, which is unfortunate. But I also don't think that Austin's like unique in that, and we still have a ton of people moving here. So
Yep.
That's absolutely an issue.
Cool.
Real.
Yeah,
Cool.
Texas and Tennessee, like Nashville and Austin, are getting all of these California people, and some of it's good, and then some of it, like, it's happening really fast. So there's some economic pressure.
All right, so we have a lot to discuss for next time, because one thing that we didn't even touch on. Well, I think Juan, you're running as a Democrat, right? Right, Juan?
Yeah, I'm running as a Democrat.
And I think Sass, you're running as an independent, right?
I haven't declared my party affiliation yet.
Okay.
I can't make a strategic decision because I don't know what my district looks like.
Gotcha.
I'm running to win, and I don't care what party I need to run in to make that happen.
Yeah, exactly. So I was going to go in
like
that direction.
That attitude.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Me too. That's why it's I would be interested to see what type of advice Brook would have for either one. Like, so we'll hopefully next time or at some point we'll get that confirmed, and then we'll have some more interesting questions to ask Brook in regards to party affiliation. But definitely had some other questions here, but that leaves us with a great docket of questions for next time, and hopefully we'll do this again in a month or so. And we have someone in the chat. I do not know how to pronounce your last name, buddy, but he said He says, thank you for running. So he's telling everyone, I know it's a lot of work to run, and that's why everyone has their place their place in this left ecosystem, I like to call it, right? So Juan and Sass, they're doing the hard work of running every day, waking up how they can get their message out and how they can improve their campaign. And then you have Brook, consultant, who has taken her time, and she's donated her time tonight to answer any questions. And I'm here trying to get the message out in a media fashion. And then we have the People's Gauntlet as we try to organize a infrastructure there. So peoplesgauntlet.com, please check out that site, and then you'll be able to find Juan Paredes and Sass. They have 5 gauntlets that you can find on our YouTube channel, where they discuss detailed topics that progressives care about. And then definitely so Juan's website is Juan for Congress, just like what it says on the screen, juanforcongress.com. And then Sass is voteforsass.com. And then Brook Hines, you can go to her Twitter account, and there's her handle, Nashville_Brook. She also has a Substack that you can subscribe to, and she also has a podcast. So Brook, you can talk about your podcast also.
Yeah, check out my podcast. It's the Lefty Lounge, and I'm on all of the podcatchers. So just look up it. It's under PNN for Progressive News Network and Lefty Lounge. And if you just do Lefty Lounge, it should show up. I've been doing a lot of COVID content because I've had some COVID issues, and I'm just fascinated with having a left take on COVID, which is missing. So that's kind of where I've been. That's where my head's been lately.
Okay, cool. So, and the person in the chat said, "I'm a girl, LOL." So sorry, I don't know. I don't even remember if I called you a guy, but sorry if I did. And it says, "I'm a pharmacist in Florida, and I'm a diehard progressive." So awesome. I'm glad they're Johnny. Check them out, and check out the peoplesgauntlet.com. Any last words, Juan? Any last words as we close out?
I just I really can't appreciate more Brook donating her time to help me out and answering my questions. And honestly, every time I come in here, I'm always learning so much. So it's I always feel like there's nowhere near enough time every time we do this. Like we're always like just it always feels like I just want like another hour, you know what I mean? But but I really appreciate everything Brook does, and I can't wait to do it again.
Nice. Sass, any last words?
There's plenty of content out there where I don't have a voice like this, where I talk a lot more. If you just go to my website, voteforsass.com, you can find all my social media there, my YouTube channel. There's tons and tons and tons of content. But other than that, donate, donate. That's what we're ramping up right now, and so we can get going down here, and we can make a lot of really great things happen. I believe it's some really cool opportunities here in Texas that I'm taking advantage of.
Cool. Thank you so much, Sass. And before I go to Brooke, she said just made a donation of Juan. Yay! Awesome. Thank you so much for making that donation.
I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
And then hello to Echo Man on the Twitch side. Okay, Brooke, any last words as we head out?
Thank you for doing this. This is so necessary. I'm just always excited to talk to new candidates. Get that Wellstone book, look at the Wellstone method for doing stuff. We can do a session on that sometime if you want to, but we're like, it's the beginning of October now. We've got these 3 months until the first of the year where we can go deep and really, absorb some really cool information and knowledge and experience that other people have to provide, and then start to implement after January, February.
Yes. So definitely I want to do a session with you, maybe specifically on the Wellstone, and we can dive deep into that in addition to the other questions. But I love that you brought that up, because sometimes I think I might run out of questions for Brooke, or we might just come to the show and then not have anything to say. But nope, we filled up the whole hour and we got many questions. And then the Paul Wellstone, just briefly for my guys that might not know what you're referring to, just give a brief summary of what you're talking about.
Paul Wellstone was one of the most amazing members of Congress. Died in a small plane crash, tragically, but he ran a kind of not a school, but he did all of these materials and sessions on how progressives should run, or the best knowledge that he had from his experience on how progressives can run. And it's really the Bible. I mean, it's the Bible for progressive folks to get out there and do stuff. And when I say that as a completely lapsed, unreligious person. So like the way I look at the Bible is like, it's a good place to start.
Nice.
But seeing what other people have done is always a good place to start.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining the show. I hope you learned something. This was all about running for office, and I'm hoping that grassroots candidates, we don't have all the multimillionaires backing us, and we don't have all the super experienced consultants, the $1 million consultants, but we have great grassroots progressive consultants like Brooke, who's willing to give her time and to educate us and help the little people, the little guys, as we grow, the grassroots candidates grow. And I'm looking forward to getting more normal people in the office. That's what we need, more Cori Bushes that can advocate for homelessness and more people like that. And I'm so super excited to continue to have these type of shows. So until next time, see you in the Progressive War Room, where we talk strategy and talk about electoral politics and getting good people, good leftists into office. All right, everyone. Adios. Peace.
Thank you, Case.
Bye. Thank you.
All right.